So welcome everyone to what promises to be an inspiring and thought-provoking panel discussion as part of our Black History Month celebrations. And if you haven't met me, I'm Professor Alison Honour and I'm the Vice-Chancellor and CEO at Bournemouth University. So today we're here and privileged to hear from four remarkable individuals, all BU alumni, our very own, and how proud we are of you, who have made outstanding contributions in their fields. So this year's theme, Reclaiming Narratives, focuses on correcting historical inaccuracies and bringing to light stories that have been hidden or misrepresented for far too long. Each of our panelists embodies this theme in their own way, whether through film, healthcare, technology, or forensic science. They've broken boundaries and told stories that matter. As a university, it's vital for us to provide spaces like this where we celebrate the achievements of our alumni and community members and foster an environment where every voice is heard and valued. Education and research must reflect the full spectrum of contributions, not just from the few, but from everyone. Inclusivity is one of our core themes here at BU and central to our strategic priorities. Is challenging marginalisation, misinformation and underrepresentation. And we're taking meaningful action to drive change. In July 2023, we were proud to be awarded the Bronze Race Equality Charter Award, which recognises our ongoing commitment to advancing race equality and inclusion. However, this award only marks really a starting point, not an end. We know there's a huge amount more work to do and to be done, and we're fully committed to that journey. Just a few examples of how we are on that journey at this point in time. We have the development of the Equity Compass and an inclusive curriculum evaluation project. These are examples of collaboratively working with our students and staff to shape both how and what is taught. Ensuring an inclusive learning experience for all and addressing racial inequalities. Our Black Alumni Mentoring Programme, developed in partnership with SUBU, our SU here. It supports Black students by connecting them with alumni mentors, levelling the playing field and fostering career growth with a sense of belonging. Delivery of a leadership conference in collaboration with the University Hospitals Dorset partnership, also aimed at addressing race inequalities in healthcare. Now let me introduce our panellists. We have Francis Annan, welcome, a talented filmmaker and writer who graduated with a BA Hons in TV production. Many of you may know his work from the internationally acclaimed film Escape from Pretoria, based on a true story set in apartheid-era South Africa. Francis was recognised as one of our Alumni of the Year in 2020, and it's clear why. His storytelling of real-world narratives continues to resonate on a global scale. And I'm excited for us to hear about his journey. Next, we have Larry Boateng, a management consultant transforming businesses through digital innovation and implementing inclusive practices across both the public and private sectors. Larry's work helps organisations navigate complex change in a fast-moving world. And I'm eager to hear his perspective on driving innovation and inclusivity in the workplace. Then we have Tumisang Thabo Madezi, a graduate in forensic anthropology and archaeology, who now works with the International Committee of the Red Cross. Tumisang's focus on identifying missing migrants is incredibly important and speaks to the power of science in the service of human rights. Tumisang's commitment to this vital work is something we can all admire. And then we have Dr. Quilole Chizeze van der Broom, a public relations graduate who has made a real difference in healthcare communications and addressing health disparities, particularly through her work supporting HIV-affected orphans in Zambia. Quilole's leadership in tackling critical health issues is truly inspiring, and I know her insights will be invaluable to this discussion. I want to say a huge thank you to our alumni team, the Race Equity Network, EDI and amazing staff and students here in FMC, this is an amazing opportunity for them to be on real live set, working as they will in their graduate futures. So thank you for working together to deliver this event today. I know you'll be inspired by their experiences, so let's dive into the conversation. I'm now going to hand over to Kwilole to lead us through this conversation, discussion and sharing of stories.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chancellor. Hi, everyone. So we've been asked to talk to you today about our journeys and our stories. So you get a chance to hear from all of the panelists today. I feel like I pulled the short straw because I sat here, so I'll do my best. So I am Dr. Kwilole. I actually received my doctorate here last year. And prior to that, I graduated, as you heard, in public relations in 2013. My journey is an interesting one. So I was born in Zambia, and I was raised there up until I was 12 years old. Unfortunately, I lost my biological father, my grandmother, and also my aunt to HIV, hence my passion for working with HIV communities. I got adopted by my biological aunt on my father's side, and we moved to Oxfordshire when I was 12, and then I came to university. I studied at university and then did an industrial placement student, which was the best thing I did at BU because it meant I was more employable when I left. And right now I am working in healthcare communications, as you heard, and I've been working in healthcare for the last 7 years. Prior to that, I was working in PR, both in pharmaceutical healthcare communications, but also in shipping industry. I was telling them I just randomly decided to go do shipping PR for a few years, learned a lot. And then I'm trying to think what else I can tell you about myself. So right now I'm working as VP Client Service. It's a new job for me. I started it a month ago. What I really love about the current job, actually, and I know Jonathan from the Alumni team knows this a lot about my story, often I've felt like it's a lonely road that I've taken because there are not a lot of Black people in PR. Things are changing, of course, but that wasn't the case when I was coming up, and particularly in healthcare communications within PR. And that meant that I was kind of hyper aware. It's probably a burden that I placed on myself where I just always wanted to be the best because I had this very strange feeling that if I'm not the best, then they might not hire more Black people, which is crazy, but that's the truth. That is how I felt. So it kind of both challenged me and empowered me to be my best self at work and everywhere I go. So I've been doing healthcare for a while now, and one of the things that I really liked about this job when I got it actually was I was asked to do a presentation on why ED&I matters in healthcare communications. And it's the first time, working in the industry over 10 years that I was asked to consider ED&I in healthcare. I had a lot to say, as you can imagine. Clearly did a good job because I got the job. And it's been interesting because there is a real emphasis within the role that I'm doing around ED&I. I'm working on a very exciting project at the moment where we are trying to figure out a skin condition and how we can deepen understanding of the burden of living with dermatology-related diseases. So that's really interesting because obviously it shows up and affects different populations differently. And outside of that, as you heard, for my honorary doctorate, I received that from doing charity work. So it's something that has been a passion for me since I was 15 years old. And I started off just dancing. I crowned myself a dancer, and I would go around with my group and we would dance and raise money and also educate people about HIV and the prevalence, particularly where I'm from in Zambia. And then that kind of evolved into me wanting to do a bit more. So I got involved as the secretary for the charity, which my mother started, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that. She started that in 2002 after she lost my aunt, her sister, to HIV. And she had left a young boy who was orphaned to HIV. She didn't realize that she had passed on HIV to him. Unfortunately, my mother couldn't adopt him at the time, so she decided to set up the charity and thought there will be other children in this case, and there were loads of them. In fact, we're actually looking to bring in some more children this year, which is very exciting. So we've got partnerships across Zambia, both the home, that is our primary focus, but also through kind of community engagement programs and also through schools as well. So yeah, I keep busy, clearly, as you can see, but I find it very exciting, and I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have once the panelists have introduced themselves. I will pass on to Ms. Sang.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Oh, can you hear me? Yes. My name is Tumisang Medzi, and I'm a forensic anthropologist. So I examine human remains for law enforcement agencies that help with the recovery and identification of the missing or unidentified. I have a Bachelor of Science in Archaeology and Forensic Science from Exeter, and a Master's from here in Bournemouth, which is Forensic Anthropology and Archaeology, specializing in osteology, so I like bones. So after graduating, I partnered up with the International Committee of Red Cross, where we've been setting up a system to try and help identify missing individuals, which I am the lead researcher. So interesting enough, this started here in Bournemouth. This was actually like my thesis, and it's grown and actually developed now, so it's really exciting. And so last year in 2023, I set up my own sort of like organization, which is like an African schools project aimed at like educating more about forensic sciences within different contexts in Africa. So I'm also like a BU 30 under 30, 2023. And then this year I was given the highly awarded commendation for Alumni of the Year. So that's really exciting as well. And then some of the projects I've been involved in, so apart from the ICRC, which I've mentioned, which is ongoing till now, I've also worked in Johannesburg Mortuary to help with the identification of missing migrants. I've worked with the Committee of Missing Persons in Cyprus, and I've also been part of the Ethiopian crash ET302 that happened in 2019 to help identify the victims. So why this career? I think a few of you might relate. Growing up in an African household, conversations about death, you know, human remains, have always been so taboo. And I remember being young, not allowed to go to any funerals. And so for me, I was always keen about, you know, deceased individuals. And so moving to the UK in 2012, when I was like 15, it opened up a whole new world for me. And also it became important for me to do this career, take up space, and be the presentation I didn't have growing up. So yeah, I'm excited for any questions that will come after, and yeah, Larry.
Perfect. Sort of wondering where I'm looking, so I'll look over here. But yeah, hi everyone, I'm Larry Barting. I graduated from here in Bournemouth in 2017. It's actually amazing to see what the campus looks like now. A lot of these buildings weren't here once I was here. The Fusion building was here, but this one's really new, so really amazing to see that. But yes, graduated in 2017 here. I undertook international business studies with the sandwich year as well. Just as Quilole said, probably one of the best things I did while I was here. In terms of post-Bournemouth, I went and joined a wealth management agency. I decided I wanted to be a wealth planner, but then I encountered a few clients, and I realized quickly that this isn't what I wanted to do. So I went and joined a consulting firm where we were focused on digital transformation. So I was able to work with a multitude of brands and whatnot, and really got my hands into sort of agile ways of working and program management. After a few years there, I decided I wanted to take on a bigger challenge. So now I'm at KPMG, which is one of the big four, I suppose. They're focused on technology strategy and transformation, so supporting our clients on sort of their transformation journeys. I like to say that they come to us with a problem, and our goal is to leave them in a better place than when we came in. But whether or not that works, that's a different conversation. But yeah, in terms of that's and in terms of why I decided to take that route, I think for me, I've always had an interest in the challenges of a business and how they can use an outside view to help them overcome such challenges. Yeah, so really happy to be here and looking forward to some of the questions that are going to come later. But I'll pass you on to Francis.
Hello, I'll try and throw it across the room into different places. Originally, they said that it might be good to show something of what we do, and given I work in a visual medium, I think the idea was to play a trailer. So maybe they'll play that, and then I'll briefly summarize some of my career. Yeah.
That's a nice surprise.
Mm-hmm. Meant a life built on lies and indifference. But unless we got up from our privileged white lives and did something, our words were meaningless.
You are sentenced to imprisonment for 12 years.
Whatever happens in there, don't give up.
We are prisoners of conscience.
Well, we're prisoners of war. I won't give up. So there've been attempts.
Some go a little, some a little more, but no one go out.
Always a first time.
We need to get out of here. Everybody comes in here like they're going to break out of here by next week.
If you're having a plan, I join you.
We've got something. We make keys from wood.
Total crazy. I love it.
Searchlights covers every inch of the yard. Boars with guns. There's nothing they'd like more than to pump holes into you.
There is something, and I will find it. I won't give up.
Don't you ever sleep through my bed again!
I won't give up.
Why won't you come?
If they've got a lock, we can make a key.
You fail, get 25 years if you're lucky. A bullet in the head if you're not.
Don't shoot!
I won't give up.
We're not running away.
But stay, fight.
This is how we fight.
I won't give up.
Stop! Let us.
I won't give up. What is this?
There we are. So yeah, brief summary. I came here in 2003 to study television, I guess directing, producing. Graduated in 2006, ended up doing some secondment training at the BBC, still finding, exactly how to get on a film set. Made some music videos and short films, and then made a sort of a smaller, independent feature-length, straight-to-DVD movie, which caught the attention of various people, and then began to work with producers to develop Escape from Pretoria, which took about 6.5 years to make. Very depressing that it takes about anywhere from 3 to 7, 8 years to get most movies off the ground. We managed to get there, and then the film came out during the pandemic, so there was a lot of soul searching and having to sort of work with the technology to get the film out. And now I'm continuing to develop more feature films as a writer and as a director. In terms of trajectory, when I came to university, the plan was always to probably work in film in some sense, but this industry is it's like it's on a spectrum. So you have very technical based disciplines on one hand, and you have very what you might call creative or artistic based. You're not using a camera or a piece of sound equipment or something electronic, but you're writing perhaps, or you're drawing or doing something like this. And oftentimes, when you come into this industry, you're either, I know what I want to be, and you know exactly where you fit on that spectrum, or you have to sort of come in to somewhere like Bournemouth and then find that. And sometimes people will find something that they didn't realize that they liked, like editing, putting shots together. And so I think I came here with a slightly more technically minded aesthetic, and during the course of my time here, especially directing became the thing, putting the images together and sort of corralling large crew members and scripts and things and actors. That was the, yes, this is this thing. And that began to coalesce. It was there, but I think I might say maybe my graduate film and things like that helped me to say, okay, this is definitely where I shine the most. So that's a short précis, but the career still develops, and here we are. As the panelists have said, I'm very happy to answer any questions or queries about television and film, or just about graduating life, being an African descent person. I'm looking forward to hearing what people have to say, and that is me.
Yeah.
I guess I think, yeah.
Well, I hope that was interesting for all of you, at least, to learn something about us. I would like to say I think we should just leave because we didn't have such a cool intro. I did not get the memo for cool intros, okay? But yeah, we're really keen for this to be a discussion. You know, ask us any questions, whether it's specific to our industry, our experience, life at BU, whatever you want to ask. There's a mic roaming or two. So feel free to put your hands up. Otherwise, I'll just start calling on people. I've been known to do that. So yeah, hopefully there'll be some volunteers. Oh yes, thank you. Let's go. You can either direct it to the panel or to someone.
Hello, my name is Jeffrey Ononiwu. I just finished my master's in film and TV production. This is the movie I just saw. That is a wonderful piece, and that's what is driving me to ask this question. Because right now, as an immigrant, a black person, I just finished my master's, and I'm asking myself, what's the way forward now? I've had so many conversations with like TV, films, and all of that. So it looks like literally there's no plan for an immigrant or a black person once they're done in the media space. It's like it's a dead end. So which has led me to find ways outside the film and TV industry, and I'm looking into like creative production in advertising, and then maybe work my way through. So I want to ask, how were you able to navigate through that challenge, graduating from BU, getting your foot in the door, and how are you able to break through that that barrier of saying, oh no, there's nothing, and especially for the sponsorship part, because we don't have sponsorship, and most of the media jobs don't have sponsorship to put you back in the UK. So how are you able to break through that barrier? Because these are questions, when I tell people I graduated with masters in film and TV, they're like, oh, are you going to get a job? Because every black person is like going into the care industry and all of that. So what is that way forward for us, especially as black students?
Very good question. There's a fundamental, I won't call it a flaw, but there's a fundamental, essential nature of television and film, which is the level of creativity that it necessitates, and that is part of it, is matched by the level of volatility. So, there's talk about it being quite nepotistic and for rich kids, and I know why, because I need daddy to, buy me a car and pay for my rent for a couple of years while I figure things out. That's kind of the nature of it. And its beauty is also its curse. And so that question, in some ways, is posed to everyone who wants to get in the industry. I think it is somewhat harder for us because we don't tend to have either a track record or some of those strictures and those pillars which help us navigate, but it's just very difficult. It's becoming increasingly difficult at the moment because, without giving a history lesson, basically in the past few years, a lot of the big studios have decided to shift to streaming. So less of DVD, less of theatrical, and more to streaming as a model that works. And that's, I wouldn't say it's coming to an end, but it's contracting a bit. And people are realizing that, nobody wants to spend £15 on Disney Plus and on Netflix and so we as a population are spending a little bit less on subscriptions, and that is the main model of financially. They need subscribers to justify. So that means there's fewer productions, and so maybe the circle was that big and it went to this, and now it's kind of going back. So there's people on the outside of that circle as it contracts again. We've got to figure that out. Now, in some senses, there is a kind of survival of the fittest in terms of making that work. And so there's two things I would say to answer your question practically. From my personal experience, although I studied basically directing, it was being a camera trainee, one might call it, which got my foot in the door. It was a practical, accessible skill which I could be hired for. And personally, that was to get me on a film set. I'd been on some film sets, but I wanted to find out, how does the director of photography actually talk to a director on a professional film set of da-da-da-da? How does a director talk to actors? I can't do that unless I'm eavesdropping on a film set with 200 crew. who was going to hire me to be on a crew? Well, what am I good at? Camera work. Okay, well, I'll get a job as a camera trainee. So that was a very practical thing. So that could be an edit trainee in an edit suite. It could be a sound assistant or sound trainee. Now, even when I say that, you're probably thinking, well, how the heck do I do that? So let's talk later about how that happens. But the point I'm making is you can either get a job at Tesco or you can get a very entry-level job in the industry. And for me, it made more sense to put those hours into trying to get some sort of very basic entry-level job that's rubbish pay, but at least it was the same time that was being used in the industry. I don't think it necessarily matters if the thing you enter into is necessarily where you want to end up or where your skill set is. You just got to get your flying hours or whatever they call it. That's one thing. Secondly, I think from a creative point of view, the actors talk about this. You are an actor. You don't need to get a job or you are that thing. And so with actors, they'll audition, and they so oftentimes see auditioning as like, that's it, that's the work. The work is to audition. I'm not auditioning for a job. The auditioning is the work. Right? And filmmakers, I think, sometimes struggle with that. So you mentioned about doing corporate gigs and things like that. There's a bit of that to it. Getting a camera, doing a little 5-minute thing. Christopher Nolan used to do corporates. If he can do that, and he was learning how to edit, how to put a piece together, how to get shots. Oh, I didn't get the close-up. So I think filmmakers need to find a way to do the actor's equivalent of, I am a filmmaker. I don't need to make a multi-million-dollar movie or have tons of bits. I can start to apply the craft with pay, if possible, in a very entry-level position and not see that as a problem. And the last thing I would say is the industry does need newness. Ava DuVernay says, desperation sometimes repels, but kind of opportunity or promise attracts. So I think it's not so much give me a job, give me a job, give me a job. It's more I offer a certain perspective on something which is different to something else. And they go, we've got 15 cop shows that are now starting to die. But if you're talking about doing, a cop show set in Africa, or you're talking about doing this thing, then, and if it's presented rather well, it's an opportunity to add a new flavour. And I think the way the Scandi dramas, the Scandinavian dramas, added this new shot of life to British and American dramas is the same thing. So I think, you say, I'm African, what is my perspective, if I'm a writer or a director, that can offer BBC or Netflix something new, and you think about how you apply your potential wares in a way that is additive rather than give me a job, give me a job. Let's talk later, but those are some very quick fire things, but yeah.
Cool, thanks, Jeffrey.
Yeah.
Do we have any more questions before I start picking? Yes, lady in the white jumper.
That's you.
Hiya. My question is sort of similar, but on a completely different area. It probably fits in with Larry, but all of you are just so inspiring. As part of my many roles at BU, I teach business studies for the business school. And one of the things I'm really passionate about is how we can embed more kindness, more human-centred and more collective approaches in organisations. And I think one of the reasons we don't do that is we're still suffering the legacy of the scientific management theories and how they've been brought down to be very individualistic. So I do bring in African-American theories and other theories that are just, to me, seem a much better way to be in business. So I include as much as I can in my unit. So my question really is, how do you think I can bring that more to life? Or how can we encourage more awareness of the legacy of the African-American theories, Ubuntu, all those collective approaches? Is that a complicated question I'm asking you? But it's going through my mind all the time.
Slightly complicated. Does any of the panel have a bit more range on the...
So was your question how you can bring in more African-American studies, did you think?
Theories.
Well, I suppose bring it more to life, both the business world, because I think it's you mentioned forgotten legacies, and I think that's completely been overshadowed by what was happening over perhaps and the more white-focused business theories. There's so much amazing things about
when you talk about forgotten legacies, I'm testing my presentation that I did for ED&I in healthcare. So for me in healthcare, that would be the story of someone like Henrietta Lacks, for example, right? I don't know if you're aware of it.
Yes, yeah.
She had cervical cancer, and then her cancer cells were harvested without her consent. So is that what you mean when you talk about forgotten legacies as an example?
I think it's the legacies that I often think if more perhaps black-centred organisational theories became more dominant than the scientific theories, we'd have much better organisations, and how we can carry on, because it believed the whole ethos of we are because of everybody, not just I'm going to fight for myself in business. So any ideas you might have how I can make that message clearer?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. So you're talking about bringing people together, that we-ness versus just you're like I mentality, coming out of I mentality, but specifically to business. It's terrible. Uni feels like a long time ago for me. Like I'm thinking about how we do it in business, right? So I think things like Black History Month are good, but my view is that has to be something that carries out throughout the year, right? So of course it can be heightened throughout Black History Month and finding those stories. I guess you could challenge the students to think about any legacies that they're aware of, why that matters to them now, but actually thinking about the future. Like how do you leverage the different opportunities that are coming, whether that's with digital, right? Like there's a whole AI field coming into play there, thinking about new technologies like metaverse, and I think it's for me it's that fusion of funny, we're nearly in fusion beauty. It's that fusion of the legacy, as you say, but actually also looking ahead to preservation, but relevance for now. So I would put it back on the students, because ultimately, for me, the courses that resonated at university here was where I had the opportunity to contribute to the conversation and bring my view and why I felt that was valuable and important. So yeah, I like being challenged. So, but I don't know if that works for everyone. I don't know if the panel thinks that makes sense or not.
I was just going to add just a basic database. Whenever you hear an interesting story of an African descent person, oh wow, interesting. Who's added something, you just pop it into a database. And over time, it adds to that rich idea. I think maybe
I like that idea.
Business, I think film it's a lot of it's about ideas, and I was reading something recently, and it was saying that kind of around the same time, somebody was designing what became the refrigerator in Paris, and in America, and in Sweden or something, and it was like no one spoke to each other, but it just seemed to be almost anthropologically people start to cotton on to a certain idea. And so I think just sometimes weaving that in. I know that the chap who I think did the first open heart surgery is an African American chap. I was reading earlier that actually I think the idea for the vaccine was initially, but it was an ex-slave who, I think it was someone like Michigan or somewhere, and they had a culture going back to, I think, Ghana, where we're from. And when someone was sick in the village, they would sort of take a pin and they would prick that person and then give it to other people as a way of kind of exciting the white blood cells to be right. And so this apparently this ex-slave slash scientist's assistant was the one who gave his white ex-master the idea, and that was the genesis for one of the first American. So things like that are interesting.
I love that.
So when you
I
have
could
those
start looking for that sort of material.
When you just put those into a little repository of ideas, I think it'll take you a couple of years, but you hear it and you log it. I think what that does is it starts to excite and generate and inspire your students. Not only African descent students, I think all kinds of students.
But exactly, we've got to get everybody to understand this legacy. Could I just ask one more question?
Yeah, sure.
This year, because we've got to be more in line with what the students want, I'm starting to teach them through the medium of influencers. So my students have introduced me to people like Mr. Beast, who everyone in the world had heard of, but I hadn't. Are there any influencers you can think of at the top of your head that I could start looking at to...
So we were talking before.
I
don't know if
know
I'm
no
the best person to answer this because I am very bad on social media. I know I could not name a single influencer. That's
Nor
terrible.
could I.
Isn't it?
No, they couldn't believe I hadn't heard of him.
So I don't know if I'm the best person. I don't know if anyone else on the panel knows any influencers that would be worthwhile.
I think there's probably an influencer for every topic these days.
Everyone's an influencer.
I'll have a look. I'll go and Google it, TikTok it, and I'll find.
I think some of the ones that come to mind, people like KSI, like when he first started out on YouTube, he was perceived as an individual that was just a bit odd and like he's looking for fans and whatnot. Now when he posts a video, he probably gets about 1 million views.
What was his name?
KSI.
Oh, do you all know him?
Yeah. And now,
that's all right, I can ask.
And now I'd say he's a household name. He's just got a gig on, I think he's a Britain's Got Talent judge now. And he started from super humble beginnings on YouTube, and now he's on a national TV program. So definitely look at KSI.
Brilliant.
I take it back, I know an influencer, KSI. Because I watched his documentary either on Prime or on Netflix, and it's very good. I would recommend.
Well, I hadn't heard of him, but I know all about Mr. Beast now, so give me a few days, I'll know all about that one as well. Thank you. That's really inspiring.
Another guy, I think his name is, I've forgotten his name, Wode Mama, but just put in Ghanaian traveller, and he goes around, especially to China, and he talks about the Ghana-China relations in business and science. He's quite interesting. And I think there's a group called African Stream, and they put a lot of political content, but sometimes they will put the kind of stuff you're looking for. Or did you know that, you know, in 1720 whatever, this African guy went to Spain and did this thing. And so they often have some interesting bits on there that can help you historically. On what
fantastic. Oh, thank you. No, that's brilliant.
We
Thank
had
you
a
so
question
much.
at the back as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, thank you so much. My name is Esther, and I want to first of all say thank you so much.
We can't hear you. You might have to speak up a bit more. Esther, I got Esther.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, just the feed.
Okay. Yeah. So my name is Esther, and I would like to say thank you so much for inspiring stories. They are really inspiring to see how you're thriving in your field. So, coming from a country where I was judged based on my ethnicity and tribe, I never considered myself black till I arrived in the UK. So my question is around how were you able to thrive to tell your stories in a country that, or in a society that judges you based on your skin color and not you as a person? So how are you able to thrive in your field? How are you able to succeed? How are you able to go at the things you're meant to do and just succeed? Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah, here in the UK?
Yeah.
I'll start with Tumisa.
Yeah, I can answer that. So for me, it was just by staying true to myself. So studying forensics and archaeology and anthropology, I've always been the only black person in the room. And I realized that that was my power. So I had to do everything I could to stand out, which I mean was one of the things, but I never tried to change myself. And so even when it came to stuff like whether it's studying or the things that I was interested in, so like now I'm doing research, which is in human identification, and it's mainly looking at African tribal marks to use that in human identification. So it's looking at yourself, the power you have, and the gap that's there. I've used my identity to bring it into a whole different aspect, which is now deemed to become something that's going to be leading in the industry because it's never been done before. So you just have to think, okay, this is me, right? What challenges have I faced? How can I turn that around? And I've used my identity to bring a whole new dimension to a whole industry that has never looked at Africa to be leading, and now it's becoming at the top because of that. And I think the other thing I was going to say, it's a given. We have to work twice as hard for people to even look at you sometimes. But stuff like starting my own organization as a way of giving back to the community made me stand out from the rest of my peers or other people in the industry. So that would be my advice to you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm definitely happy to go next. I think for myself, the way in which I've navigated that challenge has been, I've got qualifications at the end of the day. I think once I'm in a room, like I'm not in the room for the sake of it. I'm in the room because I've been perceived as somebody that's able to add value and somebody that's able to bring a particular sort of lived experience, whether it's just the area I've grown up in or just what I've learned. So I've sort of used that to build the confidence that I have now. So just qualifications, and your difference it's a superpower at the end of the day. So definitely stand on that, and then that's something that can take you far.
It is a thing, though. I know what you're saying. I remember I managed to get what you might call an interview for a TV show, and I spoke to the lady who was kind of the series producer. And I don't know if I had like an accent which was hard to decipher, but she was like, oh yes, it's fantastic, yeah, you'll love the show, you'll love the TV show, you should come in. This was on the Friday, so she, can you do Monday? So I come in on the Monday, it's at 3 o'clock, right? It's a big swanky TV, production studio. And I'm the only one in the reception area, okay? So I had researched what she looked like, and so she comes in, it's like 15 chairs. She goes out. 10 minutes later, I'm thinking, okay, it's fair enough. So she comes back in again. She has a little whisper to the receptionist and she runs again and says, sorry, are you Francis Annan? So, well, I'm the only one here. It's 3 o'clock, but yeah, okay, fine, whatever. And I proceeded to have one of the frostiest, most U-turn, 180-degree interviews in my life, right? What started off as basically you've got the job and you'll love it and you'll be great for the show became an interrogation. And one of the directors that I mentioned in the interview that I knew, she went and hired him and gave him the job, okay? So she did not expect to see him like that. And I got it, the kind of safe pair of hands that she wanted to hire for the show that she was producing was, I'm sorry to say, a certain demographic, Caucasian, pot-bellied, grey-haired, because a lot of the skill and a lot of the safety, there's a reason for that. Yes, that possibly, ostensibly, would be a safer pair of hands because they've got more I get it, I understand it. But I did have the experience, and I had trained at the BBC, and there were things there that I could offer that she wasn't able to look at. So that stuff is there. When you walk through the room, sometimes they're not expecting you, or they prejudge because you're not what they necessarily think of. And I'm now the project manager, and I don't want to take a punt on you. So you have to just have a bit of a thick skin, understand some of that perspective, and be able to sort of go, well, what could I do to not only allay those concerns, but to actually stand out and say, actually, you know what? Not only do I do the status quo, but here's an extra thing that I could give you, which you probably didn't know you needed. And you have to have a bit of that. And I think sometimes that can push through, and sometimes it's just the kind of low-level prejudice, and you just, you move on and you do what you need to do. Some people here would say, no, you should fight that and say that's not right. And I think there's a place for that as well. But there is a bit of that, as graduates, and you have to just find a way to offer yourself in a unique and interesting way that kind of overcomes that. But yeah, stuff.
Yeah, I think my panelists have answered that very well. But my cop-out would be it's a combination of all of them, right? I feel like those in the alumni team that know my story, definitely resilience and knowing my self-worth, as you were saying, understanding the qualifications that you have and what you bring to a team. Because, I often say I have the privilege now where I go into interviews and I say, I'm choosing you, as much as you're choosing me. So let me interview you for a second and see if I want to work here. Right? It's a two-way street. And I think just being sure of yourself and I think the panelists have said it as well. For me, it really was about learning and growing, right? Like, learn where you are, figure out how you can add value, and then grow together with the team. There's no point trying to fight against it. It's finding a way that works for everyone, and yeah, learning and growing and adapting each time. I think we probably have time for one more question. Oh, two. Okay, we'll take those last two.
Quickly.
And then I'll give you a heads up, panelists. I think we should do a final piece of advice to everyone and to wrap up. So we'll take the lady in the front.
Sorry, just one more question for me.
Yeah, sure. She's still got the mic.
Yeah, I would like to ask the panelists, what's one advice you would give students that are like black race? So what's one advice can you give to a student who is currently studying in BU that is black?
Oh, well, that's what we were going to end with, so we'll come back with that. Yeah. So we'll go with the lady in the white at the front, and then we'll finish off with Jonathan.
Hello. I just want to say I'm so inspired. You've gained a fan, honestly. So congratulations on your achievements and how far you've come. Absolutely inspiring. So I guess my question is sort of similar to Esther. My name is Esther as well. We've met, by the way. So I joined UK Higher Education as a lecturer 2 years ago. And for some reason, while doing research on higher education, I realized that there's something called the ethnicity degree awarding gap. Now, I understand that's a mouthful, but it means that the proportion of black students who graduate with a first class and a 2-1 is significantly lower compared to white students. And these are UK domiciled students, not international students. And that was quite striking for me. Because before coming to the UK for my PhD, back in Nigeria, you would always hear, when you leave the country to study abroad, we perform excellently. But in America, I don't know if, I guess in America and the UK, but realizing that this is an issue here in the UK context was quite striking. And it is a big issue, and universities across the UK are doing a lot to try and curb that, to try and narrow that gap. And research has been conducted with students, asking them what could be the issue, why are they finding it difficult to maybe integrate, and what can the university do better. So my question is, while you were here at BU, what would you say, and just to say that it's not a question of students not having the ability to do well, so that the narrative has changed. Students have the potential to do well academically, so the narrative has shifted more to institutional factors, barriers, and resources that could sort of help students perform better. So my question is, while you were here, and I know you've all graduated at different time periods, but what did you find helpful? And trust me, I'm going to talk to you after this. So, but could you just say could you remember one thing or some things that you found helpful from an institutional perspective, whether that is teaching, learning, the resources that you think, obviously you're all resilient individuals, so I'm very sure that you played your own part in your own learning, but from an institutional perspective, what did you find helpful in sort of assisting and supporting your learning and eventual success? Thank you.
Okay. I'd love to go first.
Yeah, you'd love to go first. Go for it.
I'm more than happy to go first on that one. I remember when I was here, there was an individual, Mark Rodolfo. I don't know if he's still here in the business school. And one thing about Mark was he was very open. Like, you could just go and speak to Mark about everything. You could book some time with him. You could go and knock on his door. And I think that was a trait that I noticed a lot of just the lecturers here. They were very open. You could go and speak to them about anything. I think that's probably the one thing that really helped me here in terms of just getting involved and understanding what's expected of me from an academic perspective. So yeah, I'd probably say that, yeah. Mark, I don't know if Mark, I'll have to try and go knock on his door or something, see if he's still here. But shout out Mark and the other lecturers that I would come in contact with. Yeah, that openness, yeah.
From my experience, ask questions. Ask. Don't be afraid. Just be bold and just ask, whether you're asking the same question 20 million times. What I found is that the professors or the lecturers, they're always willing to answer your questions and they're always willing to help. And I know sometimes it can be very intimidating, or it's also easy to just blend in and be part of the furniture. Don't do that. Just ask, So after every assignment or whatever we were given, I had to make sure I'd go up and double ask the question, check along the way to see if I'm on the right path. Again, that's what worked for me. So because I'm very inquisitive and because I really take charge of my own work and I prioritize, and I'm just like, I don't mind looking stupid, if that's the word. I mean, like, of a better term, like, that doesn't exist. Just ask. You're better off that way. And like I said, people are always willing to support you. And because of that, this is why I'm here now today.
Yeah. And mine's, I guess, kind of similar to both of you. I remember for me, it's being a go-getter, right? Whether that's going and asking questions because I don't understand, thinking ahead to my placement year, like what kind of industry or work do I want to do? And then thinking like post-graduation, I like to plan, if you can tell. So, thinking what do I want to do when I graduate? How do I get there? And then getting guidance from the lecturers, as you guys are saying, just having that open conversation. So yeah, go for it, whatever you want.
I was close to say, I understand what you're saying. I had students from African countries here, and they've 3 years, they got the money together, and they just seem like, because they've got a strong purpose. And you're talking about the more indigenous And I think it's not academic, it's not an academic reason because they nail it, but it seems to be all the other stuff, having to get 4 jobs. Maybe you don't see anybody else like you, so you think, flip me, did I pick the right thing? And then your confidence starts to go. It's these sorts of things, and then you start to underperform. So I do think those stats obviously belie something that's happening with maybe African descent students who have been here for a long time. Personally, I think for me it was actually spending a lot of time with those people. I had a friend from Tanzania who came here, boom, his dad worked for the UN, and I thought, oh, there's different ways of being. It sort of gave a sort of, okay, you know, we're all Africans, we have that in common, but everyone's also kind of like trying to work it out and figure it out. And a lot of the African students, they went into the huge drinking culture and so that cultural thing, they just went, yeah, not bothered about that. So I thought, oh, okay, well, maybe if I'm not into certain things, I don't have to necessarily feel that that's, oh, you know, I can still be part of it, but then you just check out with bits you're not, you know, really. So I think actually, my thought would be actually just spending a lot of time with, whether it's Asian or just spend time with those similar cultures, just to be able to sort of get a sense of, oh, it's okay, I'm not so isolated. I think that could be a thing. They do have scholarships and things here as well if the need to get extra jobs and other things and other commitments kind of encroach. I think someone has to have a conversation and say, can we help the person? Because academically they're there, but all this other rubbish is preventing them. And I think the university is quite good at having that stuff. It's not a great answer, but I know what you mean. That can be a thing, and I think sometimes you just got to just tackle that head on and clear all that stuff out of the way so that you can get where you need to get to. But yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Jonathan, last but not least.
I'll try and make it quick. So Alison talked at the beginning about the steps that BU is trying to take to do race equality better, to improve. And I was just interested in whether, from a positive perspective, there's anything we can learn from organisations you've worked in or worked with that you think, you know what, they're doing that really well and they've made some real strides. Is there anything that we can take on from other sectors and industries that we could apply here?
I think for me, have individuals from the marginalised groups within the conversations that you're having, because it's very common that you'll see a group of white men speaking about issues that pertain to groups of black people and whatnot. And I think lived experience definitely impacts perspectives quite a lot. So just have individuals from said groups within your conversations, within your decision making, asking questions such as, oh, what have you seen that works well? Just like you're doing now, just what have you seen that works well? If we were to undertake this initiative, how would you feel about this? Do you have any views, any perspectives on that? So yeah, just get voices from loads of different groups. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan, I've talked a lot with you, right, over the years now around my experience at BU, right? I think it's fair to say, you know, it was very different to what it is now, I think, because there weren't a lot of black people at the time. Things like this did not exist. So for someone like me, I really can see the progress. And I know we spoke a lot about the Black Mentoring Program and kind of that reverse mentoring too, because it's about not only sharing our experiences within industry, but also hearing from the students about what they're doing and what their experiences are and being able to learn and grow, which to your point, you know, having different perspectives from people of color, like trying to engage in those conversations. I think BU is doing a great job, honestly, I really do. I think they're miles ahead than other universities from what I've seen. So much so when I came last year with my family, they were like, I think we should have all gone to BU. It's a cool university. They loved it, honestly. Like, and I'm not just saying that. They genuinely will. There was a film at the start, if you remember, where you know the lecturers and the staff around were talking to the students, and they were like, "This is amazing. We never had that. Like, we never had such a connection with the people around the university." So yeah, I think keep doing what you're doing. Keep being inquisitive and bringing in different voices is the key.
I think sometimes it can be a kind of, what do we need to do? What do we need to do? We need to do this, we need to do that, how do we do this and that? And I think oftentimes there's an organic nature. It's just letting the thing be and then going, ooh, this, okay, so you're not enjoying this. Why not? So it's not so much always a proactive thing, it's just, why is this, you know, Asian student or African student struggling? And once you find that out, you either remove something or help with something. So sometimes I think that kind of observation nature, rather than always trying to come up with stuff, can be very helpful. And oftentimes when you just take that thing out of the equation, everything works fine. So sometimes having that alternate lens can just be enough. It's just a couple of small things. So that would be my thought. Yeah.
Do you guys want to say anything or should we wrap up?
No.
Yeah.
The advice one was the question about the advice.
Yes. So the final piece of advice, I can go first. My advice is, obviously, as you know, I studied PR and it came in very handy recently. My advice is to network. Network whilst you're at university. LinkedIn, I know it's my best friend, make it your best friend because you can get so much achieved career-wise by who you know on LinkedIn. The reason I say that is I got recommended for this job that I have now from a connection, right? I found myself in a position where I was made redundant a few months ago, and I was like, oh, what am I gonna do? And then someone heard about it and they were like, oh, she's great, I'm gonna recommend her for the job. And that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't networked, right, from a young age. So start networking now is my advice.
So my piece of advice would be stubborn about your career and goals, but flexible with your methodology. It took me a little longer to get here. I mean, after first year, I actually had to stop uni because I could not get funding, student finance. I couldn't qualify because I'd only just moved to the country, but I didn't give up. I kept going, and again, just staying on top of, because I knew exactly what I wanted. I knew it would take me longer, but after, I went back to uni and I got my degree. Also adding on to it, networking. Again, I'm an example. I'm here because of a contact that I made. You know those guest lecturers that come in and have the conversations and they put their emails and numbers? Contact me if you have, if you need anything. I did that, and the rest is history. Just a conversation we had after, just to say, thank you so much for your guest lecture. I absolutely enjoyed it. I'm interested in what you said. Could I contact you sometime if I need anything? And then when it came to some of the research I was doing, that specific special lady knew people, and as a result, the ICRC found me. I didn't even have to go to them. They found me and they said, we've seen your history, we heard this is what you do, and we want to work with you. Years later, I'm still here and I'm leading the research. So don't take them for granted, and again, network, talk to your lecturers, ask them anything, and yeah, good luck.
Larry?
For me, I'd probably say use the resources at your disposal within Bournemouth. For me, once I was finished at there's a career service that I really lent into, really spoke to them quite a bit. Things such as like working your CV. One thing about your CV is probably your only way of presenting yourself to an employer. So in terms of excellence within that, spelling mistakes and just structure and whatnot, you really use some of the. If you have to speak to people on your course as well, that's also really a good one. But yeah, use the resources that they have here. Yeah. There is a lot here, so definitely make the most of it. I don't know if it's still $9,000, but yeah, definitely make the most of that. Yeah, it's not just about your studies and whatnot. It's all about what the uni can offer you on your way out also. Yeah.
Very good. I'd probably say the other thing is, whatever your discipline is, you're here. I'm nobody, I'm here, this shy, retiring thing. And you think, what could I possibly do? I think research your industry. If it's television and film, if it's pharmacy, just read up about it. I think there's something very interesting about immersing yourself in how the thing works. Even if you're going to be an entry-level small cog, it's useful to know that, for example, one of the companies that you want to work for has just been bought by another one. There's something about that, flip, okay, well, and I think constantly doing, I've taken that, I used to read about the BBC when I was here and what shows are being commissioned, and so, okay, what's that, an executive producer, so what do they do? I think you're not on stage yet, you're not doing the thing yet, and so if you can sort of immerse yourself into how the mechanics of whatever discipline you want to go into, how it works, I think it arms you, because a lot of people don't do that. They just want to be a X, and they don't think about, well, that X job won't exist in a few years' time, or you only go to this company, or this is the person you speak to, not that person, to get a job. So I think just sift through whatever your industry is, and just try and find out the mechanics of it, and you'll be surprised at how much the knowledge you've learned just randomly on the internet will help you when it comes to the job application process. So that would be my 2 pence. But
fantastic.
Yeah.
No, thank you so much, everyone, for your time. Thank you to the organising committee. We've had a fantastic time here as the panel, and we hope you guys learned something new today. And we're around for a little bit longer if anyone wants to chat to us. But thank you for your time. It really means a lot to us to be able to share our stories.